Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Google Hangout with me, Tanya Paluso, and Dr. Barry Green.
Good morning. Good morning.
And today we're hanging out with Shiva behind me. And what does Shiva represent?
In the yogic tradition, Shiva is the supreme, ultimate awareness, consciousness, love, divine, etc. All of that.
And so that's what we're really all about, is having you find that consciousness and really letting go of the illusions and stepping into truth. Like, what is really, truly your truth? And for me, truth is, and Barry could talk about a little bit about truth, but for me, it's about just coming home to myself and realizing that I have all the power within myself. It's not outside of myself, and that the external world is really a reflection of my internal world. Anything you want to add about truth?
Truth is basically realism, that which is. We have a true human nature, just like all animals have their own true nature. It's in the jungle, you don't see a tiger trying to be a lizard. And, in the human jungle, you see a lot of things that have nothing to do with what thousands of years have told us and shown us and understood about being a human.
And so today, what we want to talk about is, what did we learn in kindergarten? And there's this poem that I absolutely love, of everything that I need to know I learned in kindergarten. And it's talking about all the positive things that we learn about getting along well with others, and cleaning up after yourself, and just all those little things that have us be good adults in the world. But there's so much negativity that we actually learn in childhood, and specifically in kindergarten. They say that 80% of what we learn comes before we're 5 years old. But we don't actually develop our logical brain until 7. So most of us think that the way that we always are learning is through the logical brain. But if my logical mind isn't working fully till I'm 7, and I'm learning 80% of everything I know before I'm 5, how am I learning all of this? And what am I learning? And so today we're going to go over the 5 top childhood learning patterns. And Barry's actually going to guide you through some questions today, so that you can start to look at, what did I learn that may not be truth? And what we mean by that is the illusion. What are the things that are holding you back and not having you be connected with yourself and be connected with why you're here on this planet, and feel fulfilled in all areas of your life?
Yeah, so Tanya, as you talked about that idea of learning 80% of everything by the age of 5 is the uniqueness of a human. Uh, for those of you who've had any experience with animals, and especially if you've been around farm situation, you've seen how animals, when they're born, uh, within minutes, sometimes literally minutes, are doing things that take humans months and months to do. And this is simply because it's programmed in. The, the birth process in animals is not dramatic. It doesn't have a whole team of people. There's no screaming and yelling and monitors and all of these things. An animal usually goes into a dark place, unbeknownst to anyone. They have usually numerous offspring, and they don't have to go see it's that kind of nurse that teaches you how to latch on, the baby latch on there's no problem with their young knowing exactly where to get the food and how to do it, and they don't have any problem knowing which foods are appropriate, how much food is appropriate, where to get it from. All of these things are programmed in. We, in the science of human study, have not discovered one thing that's naturally programmed in to a human being. So we learn as we go, and most of it at this point that we can scientifically guarantee is learned in what's called environmental, meaning what's around us. And of course, primarily, we're designated as humans to have two primary teachers, which are mom and dad. So our parents don't always, or most parents, until possibly the last few years, and it's still a select number, most parents don't get trained to be parents. And if they do, it's extremely minimal. Whereas in the system, it's considered to be significant to continue on with your education. You get your 12 years up through high school, and then if you want to be successful, Tanya, you have to go to school, to college. So you've got 16 years of learning about how to go out in the world and be successful doing something. But in terms of raising another human being to their natural human potential, most people don't even have a few weeks of training, much less years. So what do our parents do?
They do what their parents did.
What their parents did. And their parents did what?
Or trying to not do what their parents did.
And still not understanding if that is going to be functional or just possibly not as bad. And so now we have so much information on childhood development, but it's still not included. It's not included in any basic course that you're going to find in any requirement anywhere around the United States, so to speak. So parents basically do what they think is best for their child. And in terms of what we know a child requires, it's not necessarily happening. But we do know one thing beyond a question of a doubt. And this is very, very significant. A human child, because we're not born with this information, we're a learning machine. And we are the most sophisticated learning machine on the planet. So you are in that process of becoming a mom. And of course, you know that going through the process of clearing out all the old stuff you learned, you came to realize there was stuff you probably didn't even know that got passed on to you.
Oh my God.
But it's still inside you. You picked it up as a child.
Yeah.
You absorbed it. You didn't understand it, but it got absorbed into the organism because we're so sophisticated of an organism, and we're incredibly sensitive in childhood and incredibly open and vulnerable. So I've had one stepchild and two biological kids, and having them go through kindergarten and preschools and elementary school back in those early days, it was just really funny. They had a recipe book that every year they did in the preschool, and the kids would tell these recipes. Right? It was a comedy. It was made to be funny. And then of course you'd go and you find it and say, "That's a great recipe. How did you learn that recipe?" "My mommy told me." Or they say something and you say, "Well, how do you know that?" "Oh, my daddy told me." Mm-hmm. Right? And beyond any question, when they tell you that, it's the absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
They are completely secure and certain that whatever their mommy told or their daddy told, that is the truth. Of course, as we grow older and we get to that place where logic sets in, then we start to have the ability to compare and contrast, and we go, I like that mommy better than my mommy. I like that daddy better than my daddy. And we potentially start to have rebellion syndromes in childhood, and no, I don't want to do what you're telling me. No, I want to do it this way. And we start to figure out that maybe what we learned isn't such a good idea. But at that point, it's been deeply imprinted into the body and into the mind. So what happens, Tanya, is our body is the device, is the vehicle in which we live our life. So we're being programmed constantly in early childhood how to live our life. So we're learning to be loving and caring and open and joyful and happy. We've got to breathe a certain way. It takes certain hormones to do that. You have to posture yourself in certain ways to be able to get those kinds of full breaths, to be happy and joyous. But if we're learning to be frustrated and angry and resentful, there's another set of hormones, there's another set of breathing, there's another set of postures that go with that. And if it keeps being imprinted and imprinted and imprinted, the body adapts. And so now the body represents the mind. And when it gets to the point where we're old enough to know, like, I don't want to do that, the body's already been pre-programmed. Yeah. And of course, at that point, oftentimes when we get old enough, we still don't have someone around who's teaching us what would really be a functional human process to replace what we know doesn't work. So we often just simply, we do what we like to do. So if I've been, shut down and repressed and been told I'm worthless, then I may come off with a real attitude, screw you. Who are you telling me? Da, 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 da. I might start acting out, or I might start being a super AAA student, prove like I am good enough. See what I've done. And of course, the reality is, I may not care that much about learning. I'm just out to prove myself. So today we're going to talk about these different patterns that we understand are necessary to become a functional adult, right? Mm-hmm. What shall we start off with? Ladies' choice.
Oh, the first, and I think the one that affects us the most, is just self-esteem. And really having that confidence. And for me, I've always looked very confident and projected a very confident image, but underneath, I was so struggling with my own self-esteem and owning my worth and thinking that I was enough. Like underneath my confident facade, I felt like nothing that I do is good enough. So I think this is a good one to start with because I think it affects us the most. The thing that holds us back from our fullest potential is just thinking that we're not good enough.
Absolutely. And certainly we belong to the same club, so to speak. As a sickly child and also just being granted the ability to be in a small body and have to adapt to the world being much taller and bigger than me most of the time. Certainly I did that. I struggled to feel like I was strong and powerful and capable and good enough and lovable enough. Because it certainly didn't seem like I was really being loved in my childhood. And I was held back in first grade. And so my friends went to second, and here I am, and that was devastating, devastating, just out of kindergarten. Yeah, so self-esteem, I grew up in the South, and there was a saying I remember all the time, it's a poor dog that don't wag its own tail. Mm-hmm. And so self-esteem basically is critical in all the basic needs of a child, in every system of the needs of a child. The number one need, beyond any question, is the need to be loved. And so in childhood, in this formative up age 5 period, we know that a child will feel loved through experience. They won't feel loved indirectly. I'm making your food, I'm helping you to get to bed, I'm taking you places, I'm provided a roof over your head. None of those are direct, really. So a child needs to be hugged, needs to be kissed, and needs to hear those words, I love you, and have them have genuine feeling behind them. So when this happens, and it happens in a consistent fashion, then there's that ability for the child to be loved. And that's one factor. Many other factors that are going to strengthen that process or tend to sabotage it and undermine it. So we know that a child can develop positive self-esteem, security, confidence, all of these aspects that go with it, or they can develop a variety of problems for self-esteem. Certainly the one that most people identify with is low self-esteem. I'm not good enough, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm a burden, I'm unlovable, I'm unattractive, all those fill in the I'm not good enough blanks. The other one is basically lack of self. Lack of self. A person who's confused, who's lost, who has no sense of self at all. They really don't have low self-esteem. They just don't. So what would you like? I don't know. You want to do this? I don't know. The I don't know person. You probably know people like that. Can't make a decision, can't be clear. They oftentimes are unable to have their feet on the ground, meaning they don't have a sense of their own beingness. They're not in their own body. So they go easily from relationship to relationship, job to job, house to house. They just can't connect and be and make choices and preference and have a sense of self. So the other situation that will happen, and of course, as we talk about this, these are, so to speak, questions. Is this true for you? Have you been critical of yourself with low self-esteem? Have you been your worst critic, your worst enemy? Have you felt that you were never good enough? Have you felt hopeless that you'll never be good enough? Have you always heard the worst from people and put it out of proportion? Maybe they're trying to give you support or help, and you take it as criticism, you take it as put downs, but it really is positive and supportive for you, low self-esteem. Have you been that person that at times just really lost, just almost like in a fog, um, can't be clear on what you want, can't be clear on what you need, can't be clear on what your preferences are, um, hesitant, vacillating, indecisive, um, lack of self. And then grandiosity is the other category. So these are people who have low self-esteem, but they're going to try and make something of themselves. So they're out there really to prove themselves. So, hey, Tanya, good to see you. All right, you're looking good. Put on a show. And, of course, we identify these oftentimes with sort of like icons in the society. Professional athletes also often have this cocky performers and musicians, actors, actresses, and again, these are the people that are on devastating drugs and often die very young from that because it's a cover-up for low self-esteem, and then they're trying to anesthetize themselves to the pain of putting on a show, but underneath doing devastating. And then so does this happen to you? Sometimes, not necessarily all the time. There are times that you're trying to prove yourself. There are times that you're trying to feel like, oh, I feel so much good because I went to this party and so, oh God, she's a slut. You see how she's dressed, and and then there's that asshole Jack, and he's da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm building myself up, right? Actually, because I don't feel that good. Grandiosity to compensate. And one of the last categories of not having natural and functional self-esteem is called self-esteem through others. And this is a category that oftentimes people don't really understand or know about. Most people know about the cocky self-esteem and the low self-esteem, and often that sense of just being lost, no self. But self-esteem through others is like, oh, you're so beautiful and you're so smart, and if you marry me, you're my missing piece. You follow? Which can't be true because you're too big to be a missing piece. You get the joke? So I'm sorry for the humor, but I try. So anyway, the idea is self-esteem through others. And this is extremely common. So men are often doing this, self-esteem through work. Men get together. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Barry. I'm Jay. What do you do, Jay? Oh, Jay's very proud, right? Well, I'm the CEO of everything in the world that's important and magnificent, and I created half the world. That's incredible, Jay. You're really a man. Congratulations. Self-esteem through my endeavors. Oh, I won the Iditarod, and 5 times in a row, and nearly died, every one of them. So, or self-esteem through others, like these are my kids. I live for my kids. This is my house. I live for my house. Never letting it have a speck of dust on it.
Or what I see in my industry a lot is who you're associated with. So-and-so is my friend, who's famous. Or so-and-so is my mentor who's, been on Oprah.
Yeah, and that's just like the old song, dating myself, I'm in with the in crowd. So, are you a loser? Are you a winner? Self-esteem through others. I'm with the winners, right? You want to be with the losers. So self-esteem. again, it's not necessarily that we just lock into one of these patterns. It's more common that at times we have some of all of these patterns going on. Basically, they're a way to keep us from being our real self, which is just that sense of, well, actually, you know what? I bet every one of you out there know exactly what the feeling of your real self is. I bet there have been times when you have felt so good that you said what you wanted to do, you did what you wanted to do, and you didn't say what you didn't want to do, et cetera, et cetera.
For yourself, not for others,
Totally
not
because
to
it
prove yourself.
came from you. You did something spontaneously nice for someone out in public, maybe. You helped someone across the street or carry a bag, and it just felt so good because that's the love inside you. That's the beauty of who you are. And it's always been there. In every understanding we have of humanity from the beginning of history, we're good, we're pure, we're loved, we're capable, all of these things. And of course, that's what's designed to be learned in childhood. Because we can learn the opposite. It's a time for learning.
And I think what we all want, and what Barry and I are really committed to, is we all want to feel comfortable and confident, like truly confident in our own skin. And being clear on what it is that I want and what do I need, and being able to ask for that. And all that stems from having healthy and functional self-esteem. And so that's one of the primary things that we're working with the most at our retreats and when we're working with people one-on-one is identifying first, where are you in those categories? Where is this coming from in your childhood? And then clearing it. And that's the most important piece here is awareness only takes you so far. This is for me. I knew in my childhood where I was feeling like I was always second best and I wasn't worthy. Did that have me have functional self-esteem and feel comfortable in my own skin? No. For years, I would identify pattern after pattern, and it was like I would be in this loop. And I would share with someone, and I remember sharing with my mother, and she's like, yeah, you've already figured that out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're right, I have.
And now move on. Yep.
And now move on. And it's like, why couldn't I move on? It's because I never actually went back to that source and cleared it. And so that's what we do with our work is help you not only identify it, or if you've already identified it, then clear it at the root, put it out so it no longer is affecting your life.
And another thing to add to this, it's very significant. We are not going to try and make your childhood be good, bad, ugly, or anything. What we want to do is help you see what you learned. Because whatever happened in your childhood, it's over. It's over. The impact still lives in your body and it still lives in your mind if it hasn't been healed. And that's what we want to support you in. Heal what's inside of you. Your parents, they undoubtedly did what they thought was best. Unfortunately, that probably wasn't close to what you truly needed as a human for your development. It's not their fault. They really just didn't know it was. I don't know if ignorance really is appropriate, but probably it's close to the appropriate word. So what about the next pattern? Ladies' choice. What do you think?
Well, being able to express what you need and what you want. I think this kind of goes right after self-esteem is really getting clear on what is it that I need? What are my needs? Because so many times we're taking care of everyone else and we want to please others and we kind of put ourselves last. So not only identifying what it is that I personally need, but me being able to articulate that effectively to others.
Yeah. And so, again, needs are needs. Needs are what is appropriate for the organism. So you need rest, you need food, you need water, you need social engagement. We're humans, we're social creatures. You need to have self-esteem, you need to have recreation, you need to have movement. So there's some needs that we clearly know that without those, things are not going to work, they'll be out of balance. And being able to express those is one thing, but we need to differentiate what is the need, what is the want. And then we need to be able to express them appropriately. So I said, give me that. like I'm 5 years old. Um, that's appropriate at 5. It's not appropriate as an adult. It won't make for a trusting, functional relationship. So I need to understand what appropriate is. A number of things happen with expressing needs and wants. Um, we basically uh, get to the place where we can either have, instead of being accountable for what we need, we want, we can blame others for it. Yeah, you know. So let's say I need to feel more respected, right? So I need to feel respect. I need to feel loved. I need to feel all these internal qualities. But I didn't feel that when you and I had a conversation the other day. So I can go, what the hell are you all over my case for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I'm not expressing what I need.
And then I get defensive. So that's not working.
That's not working, right? So I can blame others, or I can just be needless and wantless, right? And how you doing, Barry? Oh, I'm fine. Anything you want to clear with me the other night? No, I'm fine.
And yet it's brewing inside.
So at this point, oftentimes this is called denial, right? We're disconnecting from our needs and wants and becoming needless and wantless. And uh, these are the two major things that really sabotage us. So it's real easy to put our needs outside of us and have it be that uh, you know, the government, the weather, the person, uh, any of these things are external to us, not being connected. One, what do I need? Of course, being able to express that. Um, and not expressing needs and wants appropriately is not just for another person, it's for our own self, right? So I don't have to blame you for what happened the other night. I can easily turn it on myself. Boy, I did a stupid job of saying what I wanted, and all of these kinds of ways of internalizing it and just sucking it in. But it's still the same process of blaming, judging, and externalizing needs. And I can also then go to, um, and it's sort of interlinked, I can blame you and I can make other people responsible. So that's often called dependency. Tanya, I don't think I can do this, and you're so good at it. Will you help me with I want to write a letter to my wife. So you write so wonderfully. I don't write it very well. So I'm still not expressing my need, which is I need help in overcoming my lack of confidence. I need help in being more skillful as a writer. So there again, ways that we sabotage being able to clearly express what we need to ourselves and to others. Questions. So, does this happen for you? Are there times when instead of asking for what you need, instead of being clear with what you need, that you make it about the other person, you make it about life, you make it about something external to yourself? Are there times that instead of being able to express what you need, you have some expectation because of dependency? Oh, Tanya's going to take care of that. She always does. So are there times that instead of being your own self, that you, uh, you allow other people to be responsible for you in that way? Are there times that you're just completely lost again? And in that idea of like, I don't need anything, I'm totally okay, and it's basically denial. You deny what you need, deny what you want. You know, obviously, wants are very human, right? You know, I do want to have a frozen yogurt with hot fudge and sprinkles and everything on it, right? And if it doesn't contradict my needs and it flows in my life, why not? Right? It's part of being human. That's enjoyment.
So the next one then is setting effective limits and boundaries.
Oh boy. The interesting thing about setting effective limits and boundaries is it really is tied in together with the need to be vulnerable. And the need to be vulnerable is about being ourselves, right? So as we were using the example of, let's say something happened and I'm upset. with you. I feel disrespected. Go back to that. Well, if I'm vulnerable, then I can open up. I have limits and boundaries. My internal limits and boundaries says I'm safe to go here with Tanya. And then I express that. The other night, I didn't feel respected. And this was going on for me. But if Tanya is got a pretty strong right jab, and she's sitting where I know that, she has a tendency to punch guys out, well,
which I'm known for.
Which she's known for, it's devastating. So, but it helped adjust my nose. So, the if I know that there's a situation that I have to protect my vulnerability, then I set a limit and a boundary, and I'm not going to express those inner things to her. And I'm also, if there's a physical situation, I'm going to set a distance limit and boundary. So there's two boundaries, internal and external limits and boundaries. And when we do this, then we basically are, am I worth it? Do I deserve to be able to protect myself? Do I deserve to be able to not injure myself? Do I deserve to have what I need? Am I worthy of these limits and boundaries? Do I make good choices? When there's no limits and boundaries, people have either rigid limits and boundaries. No. So this is out of fear, protecting oneself, when really there's nothing to be protective of. No, I don't want to go to the party. Everybody at that party is just into sex and drugs and rock and roll. And of course, I have no idea what the party is going to be like. It's a rigid limited boundary. I can set non-existent limit boundaries. Oh, sure. And can we do about, I like 5 tabs of acid. I think I want to do them all together. How would that be? That would be so awesome. So no limits or boundaries, no sense of respect for oneself, no sense of honoring and being connected to your own body and what it needs. And then partial limits and boundaries. Sometimes I will and sometimes I won't, which of course makes it very confusing internally and externally. Oh yeah, that sounds great. I'd like to go to the party. Can you get home at 7? I gotta go to bed. So it's like, you want to go to the party? And you can't come home at 7 while we go to the party.
Like a half in, half out.
Half in, half out.
That's, I think, what I struggled. Well, I was in all 3 categories, but I think that was the main one for me, was this partial, that inner conflict of, I want to go, but I don't want to go, and so it's just kind of this wishy-washiness.
Yeah, and then the internal values, do I feel confident about myself? Or if I don't feel confident about myself, okay, I'm a work in progress, right? So what do I need? That's my limits and boundaries. Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to, ease into the situation, and I'm not going to act like a jerk, and I'm going to, I'll try something that this woman Tanya taught me, and that was really cool. I'll try that, but I don't want to try too much because I'm a little bit nervous. But limits and boundaries, being able to still live in the world as we are with realism.
Let's do the next one. So we got 2 left. Responsibility.
Oh, responsibility. Interesting, because the word responsibility is in itself almost the definition of it. Responsibility.
Ability to respond.
Ability to respond. And so the interesting thing, Tanya, is responsibility is also another description of maturity. And, there's so many psychological descriptions of maturity, and of course, pick and choose, right? But if you take maturity as the ability to respond to the situation, you really have a pretty good guideline of what a mature individual is. So obviously in young childhood, you're not going to let go of a 2-year-old's hand when you're crossing the street. Okay? They don't have the ability to respond to what's going on in the environment. They don't see the car and pay attention to the car, et cetera, et cetera. or to a bicycle coming down the street, or a number of factors. So as a child gets older and we see that that they're paying more attention, we say, oh, they're more responsible now. And they're also said to be more mature. So this is the idea of maturity equaling responsibility. So with responsibility, there gets to be the idea of control. And there's what's called negative control. And negative control is when we make someone else responsible, right? Or we try and control them. Yeah. So why didn't you do that? Or you should have done that. Or whatever you want to do, giving up control, negative control. You're trying to control others in some way or another, or giving up control. In this situation, there is no responsibility. Not taking the response, not responding from our own self and expressing needs and wants in that situation. The other factor with responsibility is allowing something else to be responsible for our life. And this often ends up being addiction. So I got to go to work. I got to work. Work actually can become an addiction. So the responsibility gets put onto the job instead of me owning the responsibility. Like, well, I'm going to get into work late today because this is more important right now in this moment. So addictions get to be compensations. And of course, when, let's say I have low self-esteem, I get some of that good stuff that you have, so I compensate, I anesthetize, I put out the pain, and in that way, I don't take responsibility. So giving away our power is one of the famous quotes for that, not taking the power and responding to the situation, dealing with it appropriately. So how many times does this happen? How many times have you really wanted to do something and you didn't take action on it? How many times have you felt like you were helpless and it was the fault of someone else, and if they wouldn't have done this or they wouldn't have done that, it would have all worked out, yet you still didn't act or express yourself in those needs? How many times have you just felt like you were helpless and you couldn't do anything? The job, the boss, the girlfriend, the parents, the family, the weather, all of
You
these
feel
things.
controlled by someone else.
Negative control. And how many times have you just completely given up control and just tried to anesthetize from it? It's a, shit, this is, I'm just so overwhelmed with this. You meet me at the bar.
Oh, that's a big one in our culture.
Yeah.
Happy hour right after work.
Yeah.
That was
here
part
in
of that
California,
culture.
can you meet me at the beach and let's go catch a wave, or whatever it might be, or let's go for a jog, etc. So all of these are ways to deny responsibility and anesthetize.
And our final pattern is accountability.
Accountability. Accountability. Accountability is basically being yourself. You might call it honesty.
Congruency is the word I like.
The congruency is really that. I can be honest and not be congruent. I can tell you the facts of what literally happened, but they're not all the human facts. I'm not telling you my feelings. I'm not telling you what's going on in my mind, so I can distort my accountability by just like, well, it was 3 o'clock that we had the appointment, and you weren't there. What's wrong with you? So I can blame others for not being accountable, make it less than true about really what's happening in the moment, where it was like, it was 3 o'clock, and I was so sad and disappointed. I felt like I maybe wasn't worth your time, or that you really didn't care anymore, or that something more important came up, and I didn't feel I was good enough to. It just really got me. I was so triggered by that. And of course, none of what's going on for me may have anything to do with the reality of what happened in the situation. But yet, it's for me to live my own life with congruency and with clarity, I have to have accountability. So here's where we can really, the dependency and the uh, anti-dependency are parts of accountability. So I can, what time do you think we should meet? What restaurant do you want to go to? Um, do you like this band? You know, would you rather go see this one? So again, I'm having dependency on her accountability for what she wants, not being connected to my own expressing it. Or whatever,
That's a
whatever.
big one.
No accountability, lacking accountability. It's unimportant. It's meaningless. So, uh, and of course, we're in Southern California, and this is the home of yoga and spirituality. So it's like I'm just going to go with the flow because
Just let it go. But really, you're holding on to it.
yeah, it's all perfect, Tanya. It's all supposed to
All
be happening
good.
just
Just
this way. Oh, oh. So again, these are spiritual truths, and they're appropriate at the time that they're appropriate and in the context. But to lack accountability by default to these truths is not being real with our own self and with the situation. These are the five patterns. These are the ones that sabotage our being functional and our being our own self. These are the ones, like Tanya said, that we meticulously identify through very specific belief structures, to hundreds of possibilities of ones that would go with each of the patterns. We use uh, basically three proven valid methods for connecting deeply to this underlying, or what's called subconscious material, to be able to effectively clear it, and then of course put something else back in that's wonderful and positive. And
So, if you're interested in, and you've got some value from today of, wow, like some of this you might not have seen about yourself, but some of it, it just reminded you that, yeah, these are things that are going on for me, and how do I clear this? How do I have this stuff get out of the way? How do I go to the root of this childhood learning and pluck it out so it's no longer sabotaging my life? Because that's what's happening for us. We may know from reading books and doing self-development courses, and we may know what's going on, but it's not congruent and it's not in full alignment with the subconscious.
yeah,
And the subconscious is all these learning patterns, and it's sabotaging you.
got it.
It is a battle. It's the internal conflict. It's the thing that's having us say one thing and feel another and not speaking that.
Yeah,
So if you're feeling like, yeah, like I'm ready to finally really truly get to the roots and let it go. We've got a retreat coming up in Peru. That's the first way, the I think the most effective way to work with us. That's in September, September 19th through the 28th. We're going to go down to Peru, an incredible place for you to have what I would say, like a learning vacation, like a retreat vacation, right? Where you get to go to the sacred land of Peru and go on that pilgrimage and do the true pilgrimage work. Pilgrimages is people are going to a spiritual or a sacred place to find something
yeah,
and to heal and to reconnect with their heart. What better way to do that than with this core, deep healing work? It's, for me, it's the most effective thing out there after doing 10 years of work. Barry's got a similar story of, 35 years ago when he discovered this work and started training people. So come to Peru with us. And then, we'll probably have some retreats in the future after that. I am pregnant, so we'll see what happens there. There's also the opportunity to work with us one-on-one. So email us at info@tribal-truth.com. And if you're like, the heck yeah, to the Peru retreat, go and apply at tribal-truth.com/retreats. and hopefully you can come and have an epic experience with both of us.
Well, the probability is it won't be hopeful. It, it's an amazing piece of work. I've done it now for over 30 years, hundreds and hundreds of people. It does work. It really does work. And we'd love to have you join. The retreat is an incredible process to immerse yourself in it. You don't have to worry about if you're disciplined or will you be able to follow through. It's all there. Um, Basically, just get out of bed and the rest of the day is scheduled and structured and just show up. Um, so we will live together, eat together, work together, and feel together in a really, really sacred and beautiful, beautiful place. So we hope that you can make that. If you have any questions, if you have any other needs, if you'd like to talk to either one of us personally, we're here and we're available and we'd love to share with you. And thank you very much for
Yeah.
listening today. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
We'll see you soon.